Chapter 2344-0 and Ling 1. Ultimately, after discussion, the three parties decided to sit down and talk. The three moon guardians of the Radiant Moon Empire, the Black Moon Priest of the Dark Moon Empire, and the 7 representatives sent by the human side, Zhang Yi, Yang Xinxin, Father Orion, Benjamin Morgan, Arthur Drogon, Indra, and Morana. There were slightly more humans, mainly because several conspicuous individuals refused to wait behind, fearing they might lose out. Therefore, they had no choice but to have the most powerful forces send people over. The people of the 2 great empires didn't care. The 3 parties quickly built a platform in the middle area, which was suspended high above the moon. This is a white plaza, with the thrones of the Black Moon Priest and the Moon Guardian on either side. The middle section, like a courtroom, has an open space left for humans. After Zhang Yi and his group arrived, they immediately felt a sense of oppression coming from 2 directions. Zhang Yi sneered, not taking such petty tricks seriously at all. He immediately waved his hand, and 2 sofas appeared in the open space. He and Yang Xinxin sat down directly. King Arthur and the others were dumbfounded. Now Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin are sitting, while they're standing, making them feel like they're lackeys. Indra was so angry that he could hardly maintain his calm and composed smile. No wonder it's chaos. Even at a time like this, it still wants to be in the spotlight. If you're so good at showing off, why don't you go work on a silicone assembly line? Boom. He was unwilling to be Zhang Yi's sidekick, so he directly activated his ability, summoned a golden lotus flower, sat on it, made a flower-picking gesture with one hand, and smiled calmly. The others looked even uglier. They had agreed to come here to negotiate, so why were they only thinking of themselves? Morana's expression remained unchanged. He condensed frost into an ice throne, sat down aloofly, and crossed his legs. The others didn't have this ability, so they could only complain in their hearts about why Zhang Yi didn't become a furniture wholesaler, while silently keeping their distance from them so as not to be treated as his underlings. After a standoff between the 3 parties, there was absolutely no evidence to prove who was the murderer of Eclipse Moon Yen. This is an unsolved mystery. On the entire moon, there are only a handful of people with the power to silently kill the Eclipse Yen within the Dark Moon Empire. Zhang Yi had a vague feeling that they might be caught up in a huge conspiracy, which made him extremely agitated. Because they not only need to resolve the trouble of the Samel Seal, but may also be caught in the middle between 2 empires, caught in a complex vortex. Even the slightest mishap could lead to huge trouble. At worst, we can just run back. Although the technology of the Radiant Moon Empire and the Dark Moon Empire is very advanced, it is clear that their warships are not as advanced as the Dreamer. Plus my spatial teleportation ability, escaping will be no problem at all. Zhang Yi had already prepared himself to run away if things went wrong. The Black Moon Priestess maintained a strong stance. The 3rd priest said coldly, "In short, we must investigate this matter thoroughly." She pointed at Zhang Yi and the others. "Until the situation is clarified, you must remain in the Dark Moon Empire and are not allowed to leave." Morana's gaze turned icy as he looked at her, his long, slender fingers gleaming with a pale light. This fierce goddess of winter, with the warlike blood of the Freeman's warrior race flowing through her veins, could not tolerate this kind of confinement. Zhang Yi also spoke coldly, saying, "I disagree." He was too lazy to spout any grand principles, and the other party wouldn't listen anyway. He said bluntly to the 3rd priest, "You want us to be your prisoners? What will the consequences be? Can you bear them?" The demonic armor exuded a terrifying aura, and the 3rd priest frowned slightly. His face, which was not clearly visible, seemed to contain some complex emotions. But the next moment, a cold, harsh rebuke came from her throat. Snort. In an instant, a powerful sense of oppression burst forth from her body, crushing down on Zhang Yi and the others. Suddenly, everyone's expression changed. King Arthur and Saladin's superpower index is now around 40,000 points, but when that powerful aura swept over, they did not hesitate at all and immediately knelt down. Father Orion grunted and knelt down on one knee, his neck turning red as he tried to stand up. He would only kneel before the Pope and God, which was a great humiliation for him. But anger couldn't make him stronger. Faced with absolute power, he could only kneel down. Indra was in an even worse state. The lotus platform beneath him shattered, the calm and composed smile on his face vanished, and he was pinned to the ground as if a mountain was pressing down on his back. The third priest's ability index must be at least 60,000 points. It was at this moment that everyone realized that she had not killed the human alliance during the initial standoff. However, even in the face of such powerful alien energy, Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin remained firmly seated on the sofa. The third priest's aura seemed unable to penetrate the area surrounding them. The Radiant Moon Empire remained indifferent to the matter, as it was none of their business. They simply wanted to watch the show and profit from it. However, upon seeing the scene before them, the three Silver Moon Guardians couldn't help but utter sounds of surprise and doubt. Huh? What's going on with those two humans? Why is the pressure from the shadow of the moon's eclipse not working on them? Zhang Yi sat calmly on the sofa, with his legs crossed, gazing at the third priest with a serene expression. I never underestimate the power of ancient civilizations. But so what? You don't actually think that I dare to challenge you here without having any trump cards up my sleeve, do you? As soon as he finished speaking, the vortex representing space in his right eye began to spin rapidly. A door to a space slowly formed in front of him. Then, a silver light descended from behind the door, and a human form, about 5 meters tall, enormous and beautiful, a work of art, slowly appeared before everyone. The Aihen clan, one of the 4 guardian knights, the Sword Knight, Ling. He is also the Archangel Michael, representing the most powerful angel under the founder in the ancient mythology of the monarchic church. Even the Aihen people who came to the moon and chose to preserve and seal Samel are beings they look up to. Ling's appearance immediately caused the expressions of the 6 moon people's supreme leaders present to change drastically. The 3 Silver Moon Guardians dared not remain seated on the throne any longer and quickly stood up. This aura, there's no mistake, it's the Aihen clan, our creators. An aura purer than the 12 Silver Kings coupled with this appearance, there's no mistake, this is the Sword Knight Zero, the leader of the 4 great knights. Zero is the beginning of all things, and also the end of all things. Zero is Ling. Chapter 23:45 Zero and Ling, 2. Ling's human form appeared in front of Zhang Yi. She did not emit any energy fluctuations, but the aura of the second-generation god Aihen clan was enough to shock everyone present. The members of the Vatican, who knew Zhang Yi well, had burning eyes and devout gazes, yet they also revealed a hint of jealousy and resentment towards him. The 3 Silver Moon Guardians actually knelt down on one knee to pay their respects to their great creator. Although the 3 Black Moon Priests did not kneel, after all, their creator was Samel, who was an enemy of the Aihen tribe. But when faced with the second-generation god, they still showed expressions of fear. Ling slowly opened her eyes. She saw the people in front of her, and her gaze calmly landed on Zhang Yi's side. She didn't say a word. She only has memories. In the past, she never even had any etheric fragments that were considered part of her soul. Therefore, in the past, she would only do things according to Zhang Yi's requirements. Now, she has absorbed a portion of Zheng Lu's ether fragments, and it's unknown what changes have occurred. However, she remained indifferent to everything in the outside world and never took the initiative to inquire about anything. Ling stood quietly beside Zhang Yi, her 5-meter height exuding immense pressure. She didn't speak, but her presence was the best attitude she could give. The 3 Silver Moon Guardians bowed their heads in excitement and waited for a long time without hearing Ling speak, but they remained devout. Great God! It is a great honor for us that you have come to this satellite. Are you here for Samel? Xie Liunian's voice trembled with surprise. If Ling were to personally take action, the Druk gods would be no match for her. Billions of years ago, it was the 4 knights who personally sealed away one Druk god after another, and not just once. In that era, there were more than 7 Drucker people. Instead, it was an unimaginable army of Drucker, led by the 7 most powerful demon lords. Even with such a powerful race, the third generation, whose vitality was almost inexhaustible, was ruthlessly suppressed time and time again by the Ihen clan, led by the 4 knights, when they attempted to overthrow the rule of the gods. If the Ishtar hadn't grown tired of their endless life as observers and chosen to return to the world of the ether, the Drux would have had no place in this world. But Ling did not give any reply. The Black Moon priests looked at each other, unsure how to react to this situation. Xian Yu Fei Ming spoke up. God, weren't you supposed to return to the ether? How did this being end up remaining? In their excitement, they were brought back to reality by a single sentence from Xian Yu Fei Ming. Indeed, if the real Ling were here, her aura and pressure would be enough to completely suppress Samuel's restlessness, making it difficult for anyone to have any thoughts of disobedience. But the current Ling did not bring them that extreme sense of oppression. They quickly figured out where the matter came from. The 3 Silver Moon Guardians looked up, and at that moment they realized that the Ling before them was not the Sword Knight. It was merely the physical shell she left behind. Yes, that one could not possibly have any attachment to anything in the material world. He has long since returned to the vast etheric world. I cherish the fleeting years, he lamented. Even so, they remained respectful towards Ling. The 3rd Silver Moon Guardian stated directly, a person who can be recognized by the Sword Knights is someone who has inherited the will of our Creator. He cannot be the one who committed the crime. Even so, he has his legitimate reasons. The 3rd Silver Moon Guardian's words directly indicated that he was on Zhang Yi's side. The Black Moon Priest's expression turned quite unpleasant upon hearing these words, though no one could see it. If the Moon Empire and humanity join forces, the Dark Moon Empire will certainly be no match for them. After all, the strength of this group of humans should not be underestimated. Especially that human wearing the demon god armor, his strength is comparable to that of the Black Moon Priest at the bottom of the list. The Radiant Moon clan was created by the Ihen clan, and they hold the Ihen clan in the deepest reverence. Ling's physical body alone was enough to make them unconditionally side with Zhang Yi. But the Dark Moon Empire did not buy into this. No matter what, someone has to take responsibility for this. Humanity bears undeniable responsibility for this incident. If you insist on protecting them, we are ready to fight, the 3rd priest said in a cold voice. Without the slightest hesitation, the 3 Silver Moon Guardians unleashed powerful energy that was in no way inferior to that of the Black Moon Priests. The 6 beings, each with a Do-level rating of over 50,000, caused the surrounding space to tremble violently upon contact with their power. Apart from Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin, the other human powerhouses were forced to their knees, unable to move an inch. At worst, let us make sacrifices. Since we can't retrieve the fire, someone has to perish. It's only a matter of time, the 3rd Black Moon Priest said coldly. The 3rd Silver Moon Guardian replied expressionlessly, have we, the people of the Radiant Moon Empire, ever feared anything created by you Drukians? We will resolutely carry out Lady Ling's will. War seemed imminent, and Indra and the others knelt on the ground, drenched in cold sweat from fear. If a fight really breaks out, they will probably be killed instantly by the aftershocks of the battle. At this moment, someone with an ability index of over 30,000 points here, while not exactly cannon fodder, would only be destined to die. At that very moment, Yang Xinxin's voice broke the cold standoff on the human side. Why make things so unpleasant? Isn't the purpose of all this to solve the problem of Samuel's seal? If I solve this problem for you, then we don't need to fight, right? Yang Xinxin's words drew everyone's attention. Yang Xinxin remained seated on the sofa, her face showing no fear, her voice calm and even. At this moment, both the Black Moon Priest and the Silver Moon Guardian breathed a sigh of relief. They all have reasons why they cannot retreat, but if they could avoid fighting, no one would be so foolish as to engage in a life-or-death struggle. Therefore, everyone looked at Yang Xinxin with a hint of hope. Yang Xinxin said expressionlessly, the solution is simple. We'll enter the Dark Sun Forest and retrieve the lost source of fire for you. Won't that solve the problem? Although Zhang Yi couldn't see the faces of the Black Moon priests, he felt that their eyes seemed to have lit up. The forbidden lands that the Moon people dare not approach are places that only they can go to. As long as Samuel's seal can be strengthened, the Silver Moon Guardian and the Black Moon Priest will not need to sacrifice their lives. That is equivalent to saving 10 high-ranking officials of 2 great empires. At that point, even if Zhang Yi and his group really did kill Eclipse Yen, it wouldn't be a problem. To put it bluntly, the truth of that matter is unimportant because it cannot be investigated. The important thing is how to solve the follow-up problems. Chapter 2346-0 and Ling 3. Looking at Yang Xinxin, Xie Liunyan solemnly said, "The Dark Sun Forest is a very terrible place. It is polluted by Samuel's spiritual will and is the outlet for the negative emotions that he has sealed for hundreds of millions of years. Even we Silver Moon Guardians would have a high chance of being corrupted if we entered it." She paused for a moment, then said, "This kind of thing has happened before." At this point, the atmosphere at the scene immediately changed. Even the 3rd and 5th Silver Moon Guardians looked very conflicted. The fact that even the rulers of the mighty Radiant Moon Empire could be corrupted by Samuel's spirit is a tremendous humiliation that should not be spoken of to outsiders. However, Zhang Yi was able to gain Ling's approval, and they regarded him as one of their own, which is why they were so open with him. Zhang Yi frowned. "So, there are beings of your level in the Dark Sun Forest? Then you must explain clearly which mental polluters are in the Dark Sun Forest and what their strength is." The 3rd Silver Moon Guardian sighed. "Now that we've already talked it out, there's nothing left to hide." She looked at Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin. "We will compile a list for you. It is a list of the 2 powerful clans that broke into this place 1,000 years later. Whether they survive is unknown, but what is certain is that they may no longer be one of us. The only thing that can be certain is that, after their spirits and wills have been corrupted, they will not be stronger than us. This is because the essence of Samuel is destruction and plunder, not giving." The 3rd priest also said, "We will provide the relevant information." She no longer mentions the death of Eclipse Moon Yen. Perhaps she had already realized that the chances of humans killing the lunar eclipse were not high. Yang Xinxin looked at Di Shirtian, Father Erlin, and the others. "What do you have to say about this matter?" What else can they say? Circumstances dictate actions. If Zhang Yi hadn't extracted Ling's human form, the 2 great empires could have wiped them out in no time. At that time, perhaps only Zhang Yi, who possesses the improved version of the demon god armor, will be able to escape using his space-time abilities. The others are almost all going to be wiped out by these monsters with superpower indices of 50,000 to 60,000. I have no objection. I also believe that humans and Lunarians are a community with a shared future, and for the greater good, this is something that should be done. Indra clasped his hands together and said, "I have seen the guidance of destiny. The Trinity told me that we should help them. No matter the situation, Indra can never lose his heirs. He's truly a qualified charlatan." Upon hearing his statement, Xie Liunyan suddenly asked, "The 3-phase god you mentioned, is it a giant snake with 3 heads?" Indra was taken aback. In the Bharata mythology, the serpent is indeed a representative of the gods. After all, the vast majority of 5th-generation life forms are reptiles. Lizards, dinosaurs, or snakes. The creator used them as bodies and infused them with fragments of ether, thus forming the 5 generations of the Yihuan people. Di Shirtian looked at Xi Lunyan with some surprise, not knowing what to say for a moment. The Moon people were, after all, the 4th generation of intelligent beings. The so-called triad gods mentioned by Indra were, in their eyes, just a group of upstarts. They watched the rise and fall of the 5th generation step by step, and eventually a small number of them disappeared into the underground world. A hint of unspoken meaning played on Xi Lunyan's lips, while the 5th Silver Moon Guardian, Saint Yulu Go, beside her spoke lightly. In their time, there were indeed very powerful ethnic groups, even approaching the level of our distant ancestors. After all, the emergence of the 5th generation was a species created by the creator to suppress the Druk gods. At one point, the Yihuan tribe even overwhelmed the Druk gods. But in the end, they couldn't withstand the Druk people's strong vitality and were ultimately defeated. In Zhongyi's mind, the image of the dragon clan beneath the Qinling Mountains came to mind, and he couldn't help but let his imagination run wild when he thought of the Bagua seal under the eye of the African demon. Were the dragons once so powerful that they could suppress the Druk people and fight them? Suddenly, Indra proudly puffed out his chest. What you are talking about must be our ancestors, the supreme triads who created, balanced, and destroyed an era. CL Yunyan's smile deepened. That three-headed serpent race was merely a vassal of a kingdom that used the name dragon in the previous era. Di Shirtian's smile froze on his face. He opened his mouth, but couldn't utter a word for a long time. He wanted to refute them, but he really had no right to refute the lunar observers whose civilization predated theirs by at least hundreds of millions of years. Zhang Yi patted his head with a smile, while Di Shirtian was still kneeling on the ground. It's okay. As long as I can live, it's not shameful to be a lackey. Indra gritted his teeth, and when he thought of the blurry vision of the future he had seen using his abilities, his heart tightened. In the future, he did indeed envision himself fighting alongside Zhang Yi, unleashing devastating attacks from behind. Could it be that I'm really going to become Zhang Yi's underling? In the past, he would never have submitted, but now, Zhang Yi's displayed strength has exceeded his ability index by nearly 10,000 points. Having left his homeland of Bharata, and without the support of faith, he was no match for Zhang Yi. So, no matter how much Zhang Yi berated him, he didn't dare to talk back. Ultimately, the human representatives present all agreed to go to the Dark Sun Forest to search for the spark of fire. In fact, this is the only way to solve the problem. Zhang Yi and his team also need to prevent the moon from collapsing in order to save Earth from its precarious state. But what kind of person is he? He would never do a losing business. If you can't find money on the street, it's no different from losing money. Zhang Yi said to the people from the two great empires. However, our strength is ultimately limited, and we have come from afar, so we are not fully adapted to the lunar environment. Furthermore, we haven't brought many resources, and we are unfamiliar with the route. He uttered more than a dozen statements, clearly showing his difficulty. On the side of the Radiant Moon Empire, there was already an intention to befriend Zhang Yi, who had been chosen by Ling. Especially after learning that Yang Xinxin was also chosen by the two knights, their gazes toward them became even more fervent. Shiyu Lu Nian thought to herself, the second generation of extraordinary beings has returned to the ether. Although, in principle, for beings in higher worlds, everything in the material world is as insignificant as bacteria in a petri dish. But over time, they might develop an affinity for the material world, and might even come over with a microscope to observe it from time to time. We need to cultivate a good relationship with Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin. Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.